Have you ever noticed how some people seem to attract the life they want while others keep chasing and chasing but never quite reach it? It almost looks like magic, but it isn't magic. It's alignment. It's discipline. It's the quiet power of controlling your inner world before trying to control the outer one. Most people think manifestation is about wishing, hoping, or repeating positive words. They sit and imagine success, wealth, respect, happiness, and then they wait. Control what you can control. This idea sounds simple, but it is one of the most powerful mental shifts a person can ever make. Most people live their entire lives trapped in frustration because they constantly try to control things that were never in their power to begin with. They worry about what other people think about them. They worry about what might happen tomorrow. They stress over past mistakes that cannot be changed. Their energy is scattered across problems they cannot influence, and as a result, they feel powerless. The truth is that your power exists in a very small but incredibly important space: your thoughts, your choices, and your actions. That is it. Everything else belongs to the outside world. When someone criticizes you, you cannot control their words, but you can control how you respond to them. When circumstances become difficult, you cannot always control the situation, but you can control your reaction to it. When the future is uncertain, you cannot control the outcome, but you can control the effort you put into today. Once a person understands this distinction, their life begins to change. Energy that was once wasted on worry becomes focused on growth. Instead of asking why something unfair happened, the mind begins asking what can be done next. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, a person begins to feel responsible for their own direction. Think about how much time people spend thinking about other people's opinions. Someone says something negative and it stays in their mind for hours or even days. They replay the conversation again and again, imagining what they should have said or how they should have responded. But none of that thinking changes the past. None of it changes the other person. It only drains mental energy. The moment you accept that other people's thoughts are outside your control, something powerful happens. Their opinions lose their power over your emotions. You stop living according to their expectations and start living according to your values. Instead of constantly adjusting your behavior to gain approval, you begin focusing on becoming a stronger version of yourself. The same principle applies to fear of the future. Many people delay action because they are worried about what might go wrong. They imagine failure before they even begin. They picture rejection, embarrassment, or loss. But the future is not something you can control directly. The only thing you can control is what you do right now. Every productive action you take today slightly shifts the direction of tomorrow. When you place your attention on the present action instead of the distant result, anxiety begins to fade. The mind becomes quieter because it is focused on something real rather than something imagined. Progress starts to build through consistent effort rather than through desperate hope. This mindset also creates emotional stability. Life will always bring unpredictable events. Plans will fail. People will disappoint you. Opportunities may disappear without warning. If your peace depends on controlling these things, your peace will constantly be broken. But if your peace depends on how you choose to respond, then your stability remains intact even when life becomes chaotic. A disciplined mind asks a simple question in every situation: what part of this is within my control? If the answer is nothing, then the situation is accepted and the mind moves forward. If the answer is something, then attention shifts immediately toward action. This habit eliminates unnecessary suffering because the mind no longer fights against reality. Over time, this practice builds quiet confidence. You begin to trust yourself because you know that no matter what happens around you, you still possess control over your character and your effort. While others panic or complain about circumstances, you remain focused on what can actually be done. This is where personal power truly begins, not by controlling the world, but by mastering the only domain that truly belongs to you: the way you think, the choices you make, and the actions you take every single day. Become the person who deserves the life you want. Many people spend years dreaming about success, happiness, respect, and freedom, yet they rarely stop to ask themselves an important question: have I become the kind of person who can actually hold the life I am asking for? Desire alone is never enough. Wishing for a better life does not automatically create it. The life you want is not simply something you attract through hope. It is something you grow into through character, habits, and discipline. Most people imagine that success will arrive first and then they will change. They believe that once they become wealthy, they will become disciplined. Once they gain recognition, they will become confident. And once life becomes easier, they will finally become focused. But reality works in the opposite direction. The inner transformation always happens before the external results appear. A stronger identity creates stronger actions, and stronger actions eventually create a different reality. Think about the kind of life you truly want. Maybe it is financial freedom, deep respect from others, a calm and focused mind, or the ability to live without fear of failure. Each of these outcomes requires a certain type of person. Financial freedom requires discipline and patience. Respect requires integrity and consistency. Inner peace requires emotional control and self-awareness. These qualities cannot be borrowed or imagined. They must be built day by day through repeated choices. Every habit you practice is quietly shaping the person you are becoming. When you choose discipline instead of comfort, you strengthen your character. When you choose responsibility instead of excuses, you build reliability. When you choose effort even when motivation is low, you train your mind to move forward regardless of circumstances. These small decisions may feel insignificant in the moment, but they slowly construct the identity that determines your future. The world responds to who you are more than what you say you want. A person who lacks discipline may wish for success, but success requires consistency. A person who avoids responsibility may want leadership, but leadership requires accountability. A person who constantly doubts themselves may want opportunities, but opportunities often appear to those who demonstrate confidence and readiness. Reality has a way of aligning itself with your character. This is why personal growth is the foundation of every meaningful achievement. Instead of constantly asking when success will arrive, the better question is whether you are becoming someone who can sustain it. Instead of asking why opportunities are not appearing, it is more powerful to ask whether your habits, mindset, and work ethic reflect the level of opportunity you hope to receive. There is also a quiet freedom in focusing on personal transformation. When your attention shifts from chasing results to building character, progress becomes something you can control. You may not be able to force the world to reward you immediately, but you can always choose to strengthen your discipline, sharpen your focus, and improve your mindset. Each improvement increases the distance between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming today. Over time, this transformation becomes visible. The way you carry yourself changes. Your decisions become clearer. Your confidence begins to grow because it is no longer based on hope, but on evidence of your own development. Other people begin to notice the difference. Opportunities that once felt distant begin to move closer because your behavior now reflects readiness rather than desire. A powerful life is not created by waiting for circumstances to improve. It is created by improving the person who is facing those circumstances. Every day offers a chance to strengthen discipline, expand awareness, and refine the habits that shape your future. The more you focus on becoming a stronger, wiser, and more disciplined individual, the more your external world begins to reflect that inner evolution. Detach from results, but commit completely to the process. This idea feels difficult for many people because the human mind naturally wants proof that effort will pay off. When people start working toward a goal, they immediately begin watching for results. They check for signs of progress, validation, or reward. If the results appear quickly, they feel motivated. If the results are slow or invisible, doubt begins to grow. This constant attachment to outcomes creates frustration. Instead of focusing on the work itself, the mind becomes obsessed with whether the work is producing visible success. Energy that should be used for improvement is instead used for worrying, comparing, and questioning the path. The Stoic mindset offers a different way of thinking. Teaches that results do not belong entirely to you. Many factors influence outcomes: timing, circumstances, other people, and unpredictable events. Because of this, tying your peace of mind to results places your emotional stability in the hands of things you cannot control. What you truly own is the process, the effort you put in, the discipline you practice, the consistency you maintain every single day. When your attention shifts from chasing results to mastering the process, your relationship with effort begins to change. Imagine someone learning a difficult skill. If their only focus is the final reward, every mistake feels like failure. Every slow moment feels like proof that they are not progressing fast enough. The journey becomes stressful because the mind constantly measures the distance between where they are and where they want to be. But when a person becomes committed to the process itself, the pressure begins to fade. Improvement becomes the focus rather than validation. Each day becomes an opportunity to refine technique, strengthen discipline, and build experience. Mistakes stop feeling like defeats and instead become part of the training. This mindset also creates patience, which is one of the rarest qualities in a world that expects instant results. Great achievements rarely happen quickly. They develop through thousands of small actions repeated consistently over time. When someone learns to detach from the immediate outcome, they gain the ability to stay focused long enough for those small actions to compound. There is also a deeper psychological advantage to this approach. When people obsess over results, they often perform worse. Pressure creates tension, and tension interferes with clear thinking. Athletes experience this when they focus too heavily on winning rather than executing their movements. Creators experience this when they focus on popularity rather than the quality of their work. When the mind releases its grip on the outcome, performance becomes more natural, attention moves fully into the present task, energy flows toward improvement rather than anxiety. Ironically, the moment you stop desperately chasing results is often the moment your performance becomes strong enough to produce them. Detachment does not mean indifference. It does not mean that goals are unimportant or that ambition disappears. The goal still exists as a direction, something that guides your actions and keeps your efforts aligned. But the emotional attachment to immediate success fades. You stop measuring your worth by whether the world rewards you today. Instead, you measure your progress by the standards you control. Did you show discipline today? Did you put honest effort into your work? Did you improve your skills even slightly compared to yesterday? These questions create a sense of progress that is independent of outside validation. Over time, this mindset builds resilience. Setbacks lose their ability to destroy motivation because your commitment is not tied to quick rewards. Delays become easier to accept because your focus remains on what you are doing rather than what has not yet arrived. You develop the strength to keep moving forward while others lose patience and quit. This quiet dedication to the process creates a powerful kind of momentum. Day after day, small actions accumulate. Skills sharpen, confidence grows. The person who once struggled to stay motivated begins to feel stable and focused because the mind is no longer constantly pulled toward distant results. Attention stays anchored in the work itself, in the discipline of showing up, practicing, learning, adjusting, and repeating the effort again and again. Turn obstacles into strength. Most people see obstacles as signs that something is going wrong. The moment life becomes difficult, they assume they are on the wrong path or that circumstances are unfair. They begin to complain, lose motivation, or step away from the challenge entirely. But obstacles are not simply barriers that block progress. They are part of the process that shapes character and builds the strength required to achieve meaningful goals. Every significant achievement carries resistance. Nothing valuable is created without difficulty. When people imagine success, they often picture the reward at the end, but forget about the struggle that exists in the middle, the long hours of effort, the repeated failures, the moments of doubt, and the setbacks that appear unexpectedly. These moments are not interruptions to the journey. They are the journey itself. Obstacles reveal the true condition of the mind. When things are easy, almost anyone can remain positive and confident. But when plans collapse or progress slows, a person's mindset becomes visible. Some individuals allow frustration to control them. Their focus shifts toward blame, excuses, or self-doubt. Others use the same difficulty as a signal to become stronger, more disciplined, and more focused on improvement. This difference in perspective changes everything. When obstacles are treated as enemies, they drain motivation and create fear. People begin avoiding challenges because they associate difficulty with failure. Over time, they shrink their ambitions, choosing comfort over growth. But when obstacles are seen as training, they become tools for development. Think about physical strength. Muscles grow only when they face resistance. Without pressure and strain, there is no growth. The same principle applies to mental strength. Challenges force the mind to adapt. They require patience, creativity, resilience, and emotional control. Every time a person moves through difficulty without quitting, they expand their capacity to handle future problems. Obstacles also sharpen awareness. When things go smoothly, it is easy to become careless or overconfident. Difficult situations force you to slow down and observe more carefully. You analyze what went wrong, what can be improved, and what must change moving forward. In this way, obstacles become teachers that reveal weaknesses and show where growth is needed. Failure is often the most uncomfortable obstacle people face. The fear of failing stops many individuals before they even begin. They worry about embarrassment, judgment, or wasted effort. But failure is not the opposite of progress. It is information. Each mistake provides clarity about what does not work and what must be adjusted. The person who refuses to learn from failure repeats the same mistakes again and again. The person who studies failure transforms it into knowledge. Over time, this knowledge becomes experience, and experience becomes confidence. Confidence built on experience is far stronger than confidence built on imagination. Obstacles also build emotional resilience. Life will never follow a perfectly smooth path. Unexpected events will occur. People will disappoint you. Opportunities may disappear. If a person has never learned how to face difficulty, these moments feel overwhelming. But someone who has trained their mind through previous struggles approaches these challenges differently. Instead of panicking, they begin searching for solutions. This mindset creates a powerful sense of independence. Instead of relying on perfect conditions, a person learns to adapt. They stop waiting for life to become easier and start becoming stronger themselves. Every challenge becomes a chance to test patience, discipline, and focus. Over time, this approach changes the way difficulties are perceived. What once felt like an unfair burden begins to look like an opportunity to grow. Pressure becomes a signal that progress is being made. Resistance becomes evidence that something meaningful is being pursued. The mind begins to welcome challenges because each one carries the potential to develop greater strength, deeper wisdom, and stronger control over emotions and actions. Guard your mind and energy. Your mind is the most powerful tool you possess. Yet many people allow it to be influenced and distracted by almost everything around them. News, social media, other people's opinions, negativity, comparison, fear, and endless noise slowly fill the mind until it becomes crowded and unfocused. When the mind is constantly overloaded with outside influence, it becomes difficult to think clearly, make strong decisions, or remain emotionally stable. The quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of your thoughts. What you repeatedly allow into your mind eventually shapes your beliefs and your actions. If a person constantly feeds their mind with doubt, criticism, and negativity, those ideas begin to grow stronger over time. They slowly replace confidence with insecurity and replace focus with confusion. Guarding the mind means becoming selective about what you allow to influence your thinking. Just as a strong fortress protects its gates, a disciplined mind protects its attention. Not every opinion deserves space in your thoughts. Not every piece of information deserves your focus. The mind must learn to filter what is useful and reject what is harmful or distracting. One of the biggest threats to mental energy is comparison. In a world where people constantly display their achievements, wealth, and lifestyles, it becomes easy to measure your life against others. Comparison creates a sense of inadequacy even when you are making real progress. Instead of appreciating your own development, the mind becomes trapped in the illusion that everyone else is moving faster or achieving more. This habit slowly drains motivation. It turns personal growth into a competition rather than a journey of improvement. When you guard your mind, you recognize that your path is unique. Progress is measured against who you were yesterday, not against someone else's highlight moments. Another threat to mental clarity is constant negativity from others. Some people naturally focus on problems, criticism, and doubt. They question every idea, dismiss every ambition, and assume that failure is inevitable. Spending too much time around this kind of thinking slowly reshapes your own mindset. Even if you begin with strong motivation, repeated exposure to negativity can weaken belief and reduce courage. Protecting your mind does not always mean avoiding people completely, but it does mean maintaining awareness of how their words influence your thinking. A strong mind learns to listen without absorbing unnecessary pessimism. It stays grounded in its own principles rather than allowing every outside voice to redirect its path. Energy is also connected to where you place your attention. Every argument, every unnecessary worry, and every pointless distraction consumes mental resources. When energy is constantly spent on things that do not matter, there is little left for meaningful effort. This is why disciplined individuals become careful with their time and focus. They learn to ignore distractions that do not contribute to their growth. Guarding your mind also requires developing internal awareness. Thoughts appear throughout the day, some helpful and others destructive. Without awareness, negative thinking can quietly dominate the mind. Doubts begin repeating themselves, fears grow stronger, and small problems feel larger than they truly are. When you observe your thoughts more carefully, you gain the ability to question them rather than automatically believing them. Over time, this awareness allows you to replace destructive patterns with more constructive ones. Instead of feeding worry, you focus on solutions. Instead of repeating doubts, you reinforce discipline and commitment. The mind becomes less reactive and more deliberate in how it thinks. A protected mind becomes calmer and more focused. Decisions become clearer as the mind is not crowded with unnecessary noise. Emotional stability increases because outside negativity loses its influence. Attention remains directed toward personal growth, meaningful goals, and consistent effort. Energy that was once scattered across distractions begins to concentrate on the actions that truly move life forward. Stop seeking approval and trust your path. One of the quiet traps that holds many people back is the constant need for validation from others. It begins subtly. A person shares an idea and immediately looks for agreement. They make a decision but feel uneasy until someone else approves it. They start pursuing a goal but hesitate when others question it. Over time, this habit slowly transfers control of their life into the hands of other people's opinions. The desire for approval is natural. Human beings are social, and acceptance from others often feels comforting. But when the need for approval becomes too strong, it begins to weaken independence. Instead of making decisions based on values, discipline, and personal direction, choices become shaped by what will receive the least criticism or the most praise. This creates a dangerous pattern. People begin adjusting their behavior not to become stronger, but to become more acceptable. They hide ideas that might be misunderstood. They abandon ambitions that others might judge as unrealistic. They remain silent in situations where speaking honestly would risk disagreement. A life guided by approval slowly loses authenticity. The person begins to move according to expectation rather than purpose. Their energy is spent maintaining a certain image instead of building real progress. Even success can feel empty when it is achieved by following a path chosen to satisfy others. Trusting your path requires a different kind of courage. Means accepting that not everyone will understand your direction. Some people may question your goals. Others may doubt your ability. A few may even criticize you openly. These reactions are not unusual whenever someone chooses to step outside familiar expectation. Most people prefer stability and predictability. When they see someone pursuing a different direction, it can make them uncomfortable. They project their own fears and limitations onto that person's choices. Their doubts often say more about their own perspective than about the possibility of your success. When approval becomes less important, a person gains freedom to act according to deeper principles. Decisions are no longer filtered through the question of whether others will agree. Instead, they are guided by discipline, personal values, and long-term vision. This shift creates clarity because the mind stops trying to satisfy too many voices at once. Trusting your path also strengthens resilience. Criticism becomes easier to handle because it no longer defines your self-worth. Disagreement becomes information rather than a threat. Instead of reacting emotionally to every opinion, you evaluate whether the feedback contains useful insight. If it does, you learn from it. If it does not, you continue forward without unnecessary distraction. There is also a quiet confidence that grows when approval is no longer the main goal. This confidence does not come from arrogance or stubbornness. It comes from repeated evidence that you can rely on your own judgment. Each decision made independently strengthens the belief that your direction belongs to you. Over time, this independence attracts respect. People may question your choices in the beginning, especially if they are unfamiliar with your goals. But consistent action gradually changes perception. When others see discipline, persistence, and clarity in your behavior, many of the same people who once doubted you begin to recognize your commitment. Trusting your path does not mean ignoring all advice or believing you are always correct. It means listening carefully while remembering that the responsibility for your life ultimately belongs to you. Other people can offer perspectives, but they cannot live the consequences of your decisions. When approval stops controlling your actions, your energy becomes focused on growth rather than validation. Effort becomes more consistent because motivation is no longer dependent on praise. The mind becomes calmer because it is not constantly monitoring how others might react. Progress becomes more meaningful because it is built on genuine purpose and personal discipline. When you look at all these principles together, one truth becomes clear. Manifestation is not about luck, wishful thinking, or waiting for the world to hand you what you desire. It is about mastering yourself, your mind, your habits, your actions, and your perspective. Every rule, from controlling what you can control to becoming the person who deserves your dreams, from committing to the process to turning obstacles into fuel, from guarding your mind to trusting your own path, points toward the same idea. The life you desire begins within you. Change the way you think, strengthen your character, focus your energy, and act with discipline every single day. As you do, you will notice the world responding differently, opportunities appearing where none existed, and your dreams moving closer, not because reality has changed magically, but because you have. True manifestation is the alignment of inner mastery and outer action, and once that alignment exists, there is nothing you cannot achieve.